In the next 6 months, your body could look and perform very differently. And I'm not talking about gimmicks, pills, or something you saw late at night that promised overnight results. I'm talking about real measurable changes that have actually been documented in clinical settings. Not hype, not marketing, actual data. But before you get excited, you need to understand something critical. There's a massive gap between what works and what can seriously damage you, and most men have no idea where that line is. That's where people get hurt. Not because they're careless, but because they're misinformed. A lot of men go searching for solutions, but they end up in the wrong places. Forums, random videos, unverified advice, and the problem with that is simple. When it comes to your body, especially something this sensitive, bad information doesn't just waste your time, it can cause permanent consequences. Now, here's what the actual research shows. There are controlled studies where men followed consistent, structured routines over several months. Not days, not weeks, months, and the results were measurable. We're talking about modest but real increases in both length and girth. Not dramatic transformations, but noticeable improvements that came from consistency and proper technique. But here's the part most people don't want to hear. It takes time, and it takes discipline. You're looking at roughly an hour or more per day of consistent effort. Not occasionally, not when you feel like it, every day. That's the level of commitment behind those results. And for some men, that's where the conversation ends, because they realize it's not something they're willing to invest in, and that's completely fine. What's not fine is trying to shortcut the process, because shortcuts in this space are where things get dangerous. Let's talk about one of the most commonly misunderstood options, surgical procedures. Specifically, procedures that involve altering the structural support of the body. On paper, it sounds simple, but in reality, you're dealing with delicate systems. Nerves, blood vessels, connective tissue. These are not things you can modify without risk. What most people aren't told is that these procedures often change appearance more than function. And sometimes they compromise stability in ways that only show up later, in moments where function actually matters. And that's the trade-off most men don't realize they're making. Then there are injections and fillers. At first glance, they seem less invasive. No surgery, quicker recovery, immediate visual changes. But again, the reality is more complicated. Some methods are temporary, requiring repeated sessions. Others can lead to uneven results, discomfort, or complications that weren't part of the original expectation. And then there are risks that rarely get talked about openly. Things that don't show up in advertisements or promotional content. Even outside of clinical procedures, there are risks. Aggressive techniques, excessive force, or improper methods can lead to issues that affect both comfort and function. And once those issues develop, they can take a long time to resolve, if they resolve at all. That's why understanding what you're doing matters more than anything else. Now let's shift to what actually works. The methods that have shown consistent results share a common principle. Gradual controlled stimulation over time. Not force, not intensity, consistency. Two approaches stand out in research and practice. One involves controlled pressure and circulation. The other involves gentle, sustained traction. Both aim to create gradual changes at a cellular level. Not overnight, not instantly, but over time. The benefit of these methods is not just in potential growth, but also in improving overall tissue health. Circulation improves. Responsiveness improves. Function becomes more reliable. But again, this only works if it's done correctly and consistently. There is no shortcut around that. Now, there's another piece that often gets ignored, and it's just as important as everything we've talked about. Blood flow. You can have the best routine, the best tools, the most disciplined approach, but if your circulation isn't supporting the process, progress will be limited. Because at the end of the day, everything depends on how well your body delivers oxygen and nutrients to the tissue. Without that foundation, nothing builds. That's why lifestyle plays such a big role here. Your diet, your activity level, your sleep quality, your stress levels. All of these directly impact how your body performs and how it responds to any kind of stimulus. Men who see the best results are not just focused on one thing. They're supporting their entire system. They're improving circulation. They're reducing inflammation. They're creating an environment where the body can actually adapt and improve. And that's the difference. Not just doing something, but doing it in a way that works with your biology instead of against it. Now, let's be clear about expectations. You're not going to wake up one day completely transformed. That's not how this works. What you will notice if you stay consistent are gradual improvements, better responsiveness, stronger performance, increased confidence, and over time, measurable changes. That's the real outcome. Not hype, not fantasy, real steady progress, and perhaps more importantly, you avoid the risks that come with chasing shortcuts. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about chasing extremes. It's about improving what you already have in a safe, sustainable way. So if you're considering making a change, take a step back and think about the approach you're choosing. Ask yourself if it's based on evidence or emotion, if it's sustainable or just appealing because it sounds easy. Because the truth is, the safest path is rarely the fastest one. But it's the one that actually works in the long run. 6 months of consistency can take you further than years of trial and error. And when you approach it the right way, you're not just improving one aspect. You're improving your overall health, your confidence, and how your body responds in every situation that matters. So take your time, do it properly, focus on consistency over intensity, because the real results aren't built overnight. They're built day by day with the right approach, the right information, and the discipline to follow through. And that's what separates progress from regret.